Okay, so Numbers 22, starting in verse 1. Then the Israelites traveled. Now they just got done fighting the kings of, Sihon and Og. Sihon was the king of the Amorites who attacked them. Sihon, had previously conquered the Moabites, and and Moab's territory was north of Edom. So Israel was not granted access into Edom by the Edomites. They had to walk around. So they did that, and now they're going to the Moabite territory, and they want access to that area. That Moab is currently under occupation from Sihon, the king of the Amorites. And he comes out and he actually fights. The Edomites didn't actually fight them. This guy does. So he fights them. They defeat him, and then another guy called Og, king of Bashan, comes out and fights them, and they defeat him. So now they're kind of taking a break because they've. Now this is not part of the Promised Land. This territory they've just won by defeating these two kings that came out to fight them is not actually part of the Promised Land, but they're taking a break there for now. They're getting themselves settled, and they're on the east side of the Jordan River. They have not actually entered the Promised Land yet. And so while they're there, this is going to happen. While they're camping in the plains of Moab, east of the Jordan River, this is going to happen. So then the Israelites traveled to the plains of Moab and camped along the Jordan across from Jericho. They're going to be there for a while, because Jericho is going to be the first place they go when they actually enter the land. Now Balak, son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was terrified because there were so many people. Indeed, Moab, now as a country, Moab was filled with dread because of the Israelites. So the Moabites apparently had had trouble with these Amorites, Sihon, king of Og. We just got done reading about them, Sihon having conquered Moab sometime before this. So apparently the Amorites were fighting the Israelites, and now they're defeated, but the Moabites who are still in this land are now afraid of the Israelites because they're afraid the Israelites are going to destroy them too. Now they weren't actually going to. God did not want the Israelites to fight the Edomites or the Moabites, the Ammonites, because they were kinsmen, and he had not given them, the Israelites, those people's lands. He had given Edom his own land, he had given Moab and Ammon their own land, and he had given Israel a different land, and he did not want Israel to fight them. So the Moabites actually didn't need to fear the Israelites here, because God did not want the Israelites to fight the Moabites, but the Moabites, I guess, don't know that, or else they don't care. So the Moabites, who apparently were no longer under oppression from the Amorites, are now afraid of the Israelites. So the Moabites said to the elders of Midian. Now the Midianites were a group of people that were also related to Israel through Abraham's son Midian, which he had with his second wife Keturah after Sarah died. We read about that back in Genesis 25. This is after the death of Sarah. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah, and she bore him a bunch of sons: Zimron, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shuah. Midian becomes a people group. That's who we're dealing with here. And the Midianites, as far as I know, were a nomadic group. I'm not sure if they ever really had their own territory or if their territory was ever that clearly defined. But clearly at this point in time, the Midianites are associated with the Moabites because the Moabites are talking to the Midianites and they're forming an alliance together here. So whether or not the Midianites lived in this area permanently, they were clearly here at this point in time and were associated with this at this point in time, the Moabites at this point in time. So the Moabites said to the elders of Midian, "This horde is going to lick up everything around us, as an ox licks up the grass on the field." So Balak, son of Zippor, who was king of Moab at the time, so he must have been the guy in charge that the Amorite king had repressed for a period of time, I suppose, sent messengers to summon Balaam, son of Beor, who was at Pethor near the river, or somewhere in the Euphrates, or possibly the Jordan River, because we're near the Jordan River here, actually, in his native land. Balak said, now the Euphrates River would be a pretty long distance away, but the Jordan River is right here. So Balaam could be coming from a pretty good, if this refers to the Euphrates River, Balaam is coming from a pretty good distance away, If it refers to the Jordan River, then he's pretty close by. Balak said, "A people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the land and have settled next to me. Now come and put a curse on these people, because they are too powerful for me. Perhaps then I'll be able to defeat them and drive them out of the country. For I know that those who bless you are blessed, and those who curse you, for I know that those you bless are blessed, and those you curse are cursed." So he had a reputation, Balaam had a reputation for being able to bless and curse people. The elders of Moab and Midian left, taking with them the fee for divination, so they're going to pay this guy. When they came to Balaam, they told him what Balak had said. "Spend the night here," Balaam said to them, "and I will bring you back the answer the Lord gives me." So the Moabite princes stayed with him. God came to Balaam and asked, "Who are these men with you?" Now this is another example of God not asking a question because he needs information. He's asking this question because he wants Balaam to answer this question and be honest about what's going on. Balaam said to God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent me this message. A people that has come out of Egypt covers the face of the land. Now come and put a curse on them for me. Perhaps then I'll be able to fight them and drive them away." But God said to Balaam, "Do not go with them. You must not put a curse on these people because they are blessed." The next morning Balaam got up and said to Balak's princes, "Go back to your own country, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you." He is so Now you have to remember, the text itself doesn't actually say this. But we know from the New Testament text, which we've already read, that Balaam wants profit out of this. He wants to get paid. He wants the king of Moab to pay him. So he wants to do what the king of Moab is asking him to do because he wants to get paid by him. So he is disappointed that the Lord will not let him go, and he is expressing that disappointment by telling these princes of Balak, "I can't go because the Lord won't let me." So the Moabite princes returned to Balak and said, "Balaam refused to come with us." So you can see this all as being basically just one large negotiating ploy. Then, and it works too because of this, Balak sent other princes, more numerous and more distinguished than the first, and obviously more wealthy as well, or wealthier. They came to Balaam and said, "This is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Do not let anything keep you from coming to me, because I will reward you handsomely and do whatever you say. Come and put a curse on these people for me." Balaam wants that reward. We know from the New Testament text that that's what he's motivated by. He wants that reward. But Balaam answered them, "Even if Balak gave me his palace filled with silver and gold, I could not do anything great or small to go beyond the command of the Lord my God." He wants that palace. He wants that silver and gold. But God has forbidden him from saying anything. "Now stay here tonight as the others did, and I will find out what else the Lord will tell me." He's hoping that he can talk God into this. He's hoping he might be able to negotiate his way to this reward. That night, God came to Balaam and said. Now in this English text, the word here is since. The word should probably be if. More literal translations of the scriptures have the word if here instead of since. Ouch. It's hard for me right now because this armrest is falling off, so I have to be very gentle whenever I change position on this chair. So this sentence should probably be read as, "If these men come to summon you, go with them, but do only what I tell you." And when we next read, it says, Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab. So under this interpretation, if the word there really should be written as if instead of since, God tells him not to go with them unless the men come to him first, but he goes to them first. He's in such a hurry to get this reward that he is going to them before they come to him in the morning. But God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Now there are two reasons why God is saying. The text is written very strangely here. And already in this translation it said, "Since these men have come with you, go with them." And then immediately it says that God is mad at Balaam for going. Again, I think it makes more sense and fits better if the word "since" here should be written as "if." So Balaam is expressing his eagerness to go with the people, even if when the conditions that God laid out for him haven't been met yet. And in general, the reason why God is mad at Balaam is because he is so eager to go to answer this call, because he wants that monetary reward that he's expecting from Balak. That's what God is mad about. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, so the angel of the Lord appears here. Not just a regular angel, but the angel of the Lord. She turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat her to get her back onto the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between two vineyards, with walls on both sides. When the donkey I lost my place there. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat her again. So she can see the donkey. The donkey can see the angel. Balaam cannot. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn, either to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. So she just sat down. And he was angry and beat her with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" So the donkey is talking. Now in this text, the text in this story, the text is specifically making reference to the Lord opening the donkey's mouth. Back in Genesis 3, when the serpent spoke to Eve, it doesn't say that. It just says the serpent was more crafty than the other animals God had made. So we know that something unique and special is happening here, but in Genesis 3 there's no attempt to explain how the serpent can speak. Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." He is so angry at this donkey's attempts to thwart what he sees, this donkey's attempts to thwart him on his journey and make a fool out of him. The donkey is really attempting to stop him from being judged by the angel of the Lord. But he sees it as a donkey making a fool of him in front of his servants, and possibly in front of the princes of Moab, who may be going on ahead of him. And so he's so angry about that, he's not even acknowledging how strange it is that his donkey is talking to him. I don't know if the donkey was actually speaking human words, or if the donkey was communicating in such a way that Balaam knew what it was saying, even if it wasn't speaking. Like my cat, right now my cat is meowing at the door. Okay? You might be able, I don't know if the microphone can pick her up or not, but she's making quite a ruckus back there, trying to get out from the bedroom. And that cat is a very intelligent cat. The most intelligent cat I've ever had. Actually, as far as cats go, she's something of a genius. And she's very expressive. She has, very expressive face, very expressive body language and movements. She has a lot of meows. I have one cat, the big fat cat. He does nothing. He does nothing but eat and sleep all day. And she only makes one kind of meow. She just says meow, meow, meow. That's it. That's all she ever does is meow. And she only ever does that when she wants food. This cat has all kinds of meows. She has short meows, long meows, high meows, low meows. She takes out one word, meow, and speaks it all kinds of different ways. Plus, she has a very lively face, big eyes that she communicates with. She communicates with her body. She communicates with her facial expressions. I have one cat who's very, very, very communicative, very, very expressive, and there are times, she is so plain in her expressions. There are times legitimately when I feel like I'm talking with her. Like, she is just so expressive and so communicative that it feels like I'm having just a conversation with her. Like, I can understand what she's communicating to me, like, exactly. I know exactly what she's telling me. And I feel like she's even I know she's not really understanding me, of course, but she is so expressive and so responsive and so emotive as a cat, as far as cats go, that it feels like I'm having a conversation with her. So I don't know, maybe it was something like that. Maybe the donkey was simply, being a donkey in a way that made sense to Balaam that he was having this conversation. I don't know. Or maybe the donkey was actually speaking. Maybe the Lord actually opened the donkey's mouth and put his own voice in there and spoke. It's possible. He does that with Balaam later on. I'm not going to say God can't do that. If God wants to give a donkey the power of speech in this context, I'm not going to say he can't do that. I'm not going to say the text necessarily assumes we have to take that as what happened. There might be a more naturalistic explanation of it. At any rate, whatever is going on is unusual and strange. The donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" "No," he said. Then the angel opened Balaam's eyes. Then the Lord, opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him. So the angel of the Lord was there the whole time. The donkey saw him before Balaam did. I've often wondered if my cats see angels. Like going back to the cat again, my cat sometimes goes completely crazy and starts darting around here. I've often wondered if my cats see angels. I believe they're there. I do. I don't know if it's the angel of the Lord who's here. I don't know about that. But I do believe that there are angels around and we just don't see them. If the Lord opened our eyes, I believe we would see them. He does do that some in scriptures. He did it to Balaam here. He does it to other people later on. I believe that does happen. I believe there is a spiritual world that completely surrounds and envelops this one that we can't access with our physical senses or any of the tools or instruments that we build to measure the world. I believe it exists. I believe it's actually more real than this one is, really. And it's all around us. And I also believe that one day these two worlds will be one again and that we will perceive it, we will interact with it. Right now we're not. And right now we can't. In this case, the Lord opened Balaam's eyes to see the angel of the Lord standing in front of him. And we will read another examples later on of God doing similar things and people suddenly becoming aware of these angelic beings who I believe are always there. We just don't see them normally. So the angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come here to oppose you, because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now, but I would have spared her." Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now if you are displeased, I will go back." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with these men, but speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went with the princess of Balaam. So God is going to let him go. God is going to allow Balaam to continue on his journey and speak to the king of Moab. God does not want him to. He told him not to. He told him back after the first visit not to go. And I believe he told him after the second visit not to go unless the men came to him first, which they didn't. So God has made his will known to Balaam that he does not want him to be doing this. But Balaam has made his will known to God that he does want to do this. So right now, God is turning him over to his sin. He is letting Balaam go through with what Balaam wants to do. He is prohibiting him, though. He is not going to let him speak anything other than the message that God gives him to speak. But Balaam wants to do this. He wants to fulfill this request of the king of Moab to get the money that he's thinking Balak will give him for. So this is not a matter of God being inconsistent, because God has been consistent from the beginning. He doesn't want Balaam to go, and he's not going to let him curse Israel. But he is turning Balaam over to his sin. He has tried to refrain him. He has tried to restrain him. He's warned him about doing this. He's told him not to do this, but Balaam wants to do this. And so at this point, the Lord is turning him over to his sin and letting him engage in the bad behavior that he wants to engage in. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the Moabite town on the Arnon border at the edge of his territory. Balak said to Balaam, "Did I not send you an urgent summons? Why didn't you come to me? Am I really not able to reward you?" Now this is why I think probably when we read about the river, Balaam living near the river, back in verse 5 of chapter 22. It's probably not referring to the Euphrates River like it normally does, because that would be farther away. It's probably referring to the Jordan River, which is where this is taking place near. Because the Israelites are camped along the Jordan across from Jericho, and this town is probably where Pethor is probably near there, because it seems like that they're not crossing tremendous distances to go back and forth. Balak is pretty urgent here, and if we have to account for these various trips back and forth across the desert, up and down the Euphrates River, it seems like that'd be taking longer than Balak really has, because the enemy is literally in his backyard, and I don't think he'd be waiting a month or two at a time for the messengers to go to Balaam and come back with a no reply, and go back out again, and then Balaam to come back. Especially since this is all taking place in the last year or so of Moses' life. It doesn't seem like there's enough time for this to be happening if Balaam lives somewhere along the Euphrates River. Probably the reference to the river earlier is the Jordan River, which is right there, which is where the Israelites are camped. So he's pretty close. But I really don't know. We really can't say that for sure. It is ambiguous. At any rate, Balak considers this to be very urgent. Why didn't you come to me? Am I really not able to reward you? Well, I have come to you now, Balaam replied. But can I just say anything? I must speak only what God puts in my mouth. Then Balaam went with Balak to Kiriath Huzoth. Balak, the king, sacrificed cattle and sheep, and gave some to Balaam the prophet, and the princes who were with him. The next morning Balak took Balaam up to Bamoth Baal, a lot of bays, and from there he saw a part of the people. We'll go ahead and start a new video now.